Disclaimer: the information provided in this video is for general informational and entertainment purposes only. It should not be considered as professional advice. The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, employer, or company. The use of this information is solely at your own risk. What if I told you that one of the biggest property developers in China is on the verge of collapse, and that its downfall could have serious consequences for the world's second largest economy? Sounds like a conspiracy theory. Well, it's not. It's the reality that Country Garden, a massive builder of hundreds of thousands of homes annually across China, is facing right now. But who is behind this reality? Is it just a result of bad business decisions and market forces, or is there something more sinister going on? Could it be that Country Garden is being sabotaged by its rivals, or even by the Chinese government itself? And what are the hidden motives and agendas behind this scheme? In this video, we will explore these questions and more, as we unravel the mystery of Country Garden's collapse. But before we dive into that, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified of our latest videos on Wealth Discovery Channel. Part 1: The Rise and Fall of Country Garden. Country Garden is one of China's largest property developers, with a market value of over $10 billion. It employs some 300,000 people and has projects in more than 1,000 cities and towns across China. It is also known for its ambitious and innovative projects, such as Forest City, a $100 billion eco-city built on 4 artificial islands in Malaysia. But behind its impressive facade, Country Garden is hiding a dark secret: it is drowning in debt. As of the end of last year, the company had a whopping 1.4 trillion yuan, about $194 billion, in liabilities, making it one of the most indebted property groups in the world. Some of its debt, roughly $4.3 billion in onshore and offshore bonds, will come due or become puttable through the end of 2024, meaning the company will face obligations to bondholders. How did Country Garden get into this situation? Well, it all started with China's property boom, which fueled the rapid growth of many developers like Country Garden. For years, these developers borrowed heavily from banks and investors to acquire land and build homes, betting on the rising demand and prices of real estate in China. They also expanded aggressively overseas, seeking new markets and opportunities. But things took a turn for the worse in 2020, when China introduced new rules to control the amount of money big real estate firms could borrow. These rules, known as the 3 red lines, set limits on developers' debt-to-asset ratio, debt-to-equity ratio, and cash-to-short-term debt ratio. The aim was to curb excessive leverage and speculation in the property sector, which was seen as a potential threat to China's financial stability. The new rules hit Country Garden hard, as it failed to meet any of the 3 red lines. The company was forced to cut back on its spending and sell off some of its assets to reduce its debt. But that was not enough to stop its cash flow from drying up. Earlier this week, Country Garden missed 2 bond payments, raising concerns about its ability to repay its creditors. The company also warned investors that it would likely record a loss of up to $7.6 billion for the first 6 months of this year, compared with a profit of about $264 million for the same period last year. But was this all just a coincidence? Or was there something more going on behind the scenes? Some analysts have suggested that Country Garden may have been targeted by its competitors or even by the Chinese government itself. They point out that Country Garden has been involved in several controversies and disputes over the years, such as land disputes with local governments, environmental violations, tax evasion, and corruption scandals. They also note that Country Garden has been outspoken about its political views and ambitions, such as supporting Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement, challenging Beijing's authority over Malaysia's South China Sea claims, and aspiring to become a global leader in green development. Could it be that these factors have made Country Garden a target for sabotage or retaliation by its enemies? Could it be that some powerful forces have been secretly manipulating the market or influencing the regulators to undermine Country Garden's business and reputation? Could it be that some hidden agenda or motive is behind this scheme? Part 2: The impact and implications of Country Garden's collapse. Country Garden's troubles are not isolated, they are part of a wider crisis that has engulfed China's property sector, which accounts for about a third of the country's economy. Several other developers have also defaulted on their debts or faced liquidity problems in recent months, such as Evergrande, Fantasia, Cynic Holdings, and Modern Land. These developers have left behind unfinished building projects across the country, affecting millions of home buyers who have paid deposits or mortgages for properties that may never be completed. The property crisis has also spilled over to other sectors of China's economy, such as construction, steel, cement, furniture, appliances, and consumer spending. It has contributed to China's slowing growth rate, which fell to 4.9% in the third quarter of this year, below analysts' expectations and well below the 7.9% growth recorded in the second quarter. It has also added to China's deflationary pressures, as falling property prices dragged down overall inflation. But perhaps the most worrying aspect of Country Garden's collapse is its potential impact on the global financial system. As one of China's largest property developers, Country Garden has borrowed heavily from foreign banks and investors over the years. According to Bloomberg, Country Garden has more than $20 billion worth of dollar-denominated bonds outstanding as of September 30 this year. If Country Garden defaults on these bonds or restructures them at a steep discount, it could trigger losses for many international creditors and investors who hold them. Moreover, Country Garden's collapse could spark a contagion effect among other Chinese developers who have similar exposure to foreign debt. According to Moody's, Chinese developers have about $88 billion of dollar bonds maturing or becoming puttable by the end of 2024. If these developers fail to repay or refinance their debt, it could cause a wave of defaults and downgrades that could shake the confidence and stability of the global bond market. But why would this matter to the rest of the world? Well, because China is not just any country. It is the world's second largest economy and the largest trading partner for many countries. It is also a major source of demand and supply for many commodities and products. If China's economy suffers a hard landing or a financial crisis, it could have serious repercussions for the global economy and trade. It could also trigger a domino effect that could spread to other emerging markets or even developed countries that have close ties or dependencies on China. But is this what some people want? Could it be that some hidden forces are deliberately trying to destabilize China's economy and financial system? Could it be that some geopolitical rivals or adversaries are trying to weaken China's influence and power in the world? Could it be that some ideological enemies or critics are trying to discredit China's model and success? Could it be that some vested interests or groups are trying to profit from China's downfall? Part 3: The conclusion and outlook for Country Garden. So, what can be done to prevent Country Garden's collapse from turning into a global financial crisis? Well, one possible solution is for the Chinese government to step in and bail out the company, or at least provide some form of support or relief. This could help ease the pressure on Country Garden and its creditors, and prevent a disorderly default that could have systemic consequences. However, this option may not be very likely, as China has shown a reluctance to rescue troubled developers in the past, preferring to let the market sort out the winners and losers. China may also want to avoid creating a moral hazard problem, where developers expect to be bailed out whenever they get into trouble. Another possible solution is for Country Garden to negotiate with its creditors and investors, and reach an agreement on a debt restructuring plan that is acceptable to all parties. This could involve extending the maturity of its bonds, reducing the interest rates, swapping debt for equity, or offering some collateral or guarantees. This option may be more feasible, as Country Garden has already indicated that it is considering adopting various debt management measures, and that it has set up a task force to cope with its challenges. However, this option may not be easy either, as Country Garden may face resistance or legal challenges from some of its creditors or investors who may not agree with the terms of the restructuring. In any case, Country Garden's fate is hanging in the balance, and its collapse could have far-reaching implications for China and the world. It is a stark reminder of the risks and challenges that China's property sector and economy face in the post-pandemic era. It is also a wake-up call for investors who have poured money into China's property market, hoping for high returns and low risks. But is this all just a coincidence? Or is there something more going on behind the scenes? Is Country Garden's collapse part of a bigger conspiracy? And if so, who is behind it? And what are their goals? These are some of the questions that we will try to answer in our next video. So stay tuned for more updates on this topic. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time at Wealth Discovery Channel.